Buckle up, because today we're diving into the absolute train wreck of America's fast food scene. We're not talking about bland burgers or soggy fries. We're exposing 7 chains that have turned dining into a dangerous gamble, where every bite feels like Russian roulette. These aren't just minor slip-ups. We're talking health violations that would make Gordon Ramsay faint, corporate scandals straight out of a Netflix documentary, and food poisoning stories so infamous they've become internet legends. Some of these places are so bad that health inspectors walk in and immediately want backup. From bread legally classified as cake to mystery meat controversies that dragged on for years. From deadly outbreaks that changed federal law to social media disasters that tanked billion-dollar brands. These chains have mastered failure like no one else. We've done the digging, combed through reports, and gathered the scandals they don't want you to know. Let's start our descent into fast food hell with number 7. Coming in at number 7 is Subway, the sandwich chain that sold America on eating fresh while serving up controversy after controversy. Once marketed as the healthy alternative to burgers and fries, Subway's reputation has crumbled under a series of scandals that make their slogan sound like a cruel joke. It started with something as simple as bread. In 2020, Ireland's Supreme Court ruled that Subway's bread contained so much sugar, it legally qualified as cake. 5 times the legal sugar limit, to be exact. Customers who thought they were choosing a wholesome sandwich were, in reality, eating dessert disguised as lunch. That ruling became a symbol of how far Subway's marketing had strayed from reality. Then came the franchise's most infamous chapter, Jared Fogle. Subway's longtime spokesperson built his image around losing weight on a Subway diet, only to later be convicted of horrific crimes involving children. The man who embodied the brand became a stain on its legacy, leaving every old commercial as an uncomfortable reminder of one of fast food's darkest PR disasters. If bread is cake and a disgraced spokesperson weren't enough, Subway was soon dragged into a bizarre food identity crisis. For nearly 2 years, headlines screamed about a lawsuit claiming Subway's tuna wasn't actually tuna. Lab tests, DNA analyses, and endless speculation cast doubt on what was inside those tuna melts. Although the case was dismissed in 2023 and Subway insisted its tuna is 100% wild-caught, the damage to customer trust was irreversible. Once people start joking that your sandwiches are science experiments, your credibility is toast. These controversies weren't isolated. They exposed a deeper pattern of failure. Subway consistently ranks low in customer satisfaction surveys, with complaints about soggy sandwiches, poor ingredient quality, and questionable food handling practices. Former employees have described storage and prep methods that would make health inspectors nervous. For a brand built on the idea of freshness, the disconnect couldn't be more glaring. The irony is hard to miss. Subway positioned itself as the healthier fast food option, the place you went when you wanted to make a better choice. Yet beneath the glossy ads was a chain serving sugar-laden bread, processed meats, and questionable fish. Eat fresh became less a promise than a punchline. What's remarkable is how systematic Subway's missteps have been. These aren't freak accidents or one-off scandals. They're recurring failures in leadership, quality control, and transparency. From marketing bread that isn't bread to letting its most famous face destroy its credibility, the company has repeatedly undermined its own brand promise. And their damage control? Often defensive, sometimes tone-deaf, and rarely effective. Instead of addressing problems head-on, Subway has too often seemed more concerned with spin than solutions. When your bread is legally cake, and your tuna requires a courtroom defense, maybe it's time to admit the system is broken. At number 6, we find Burger King, the self-proclaimed king of burgers who somehow managed to flame-broil their own reputation into ash. Once positioning itself as royalty, the chain has instead become a case study in how to alienate customers through bad marketing, poor oversight, and infamous scandals. The fall began with one of the most poorly timed social media posts in corporate history. On International Women's Day, Burger King tweeted, "Women belong in the kitchen." The chain insisted it was promoting a culinary scholarship program, but the execution was so tone-deaf that outrage drowned out any good intentions. Boycotts followed, and the post became shorthand for corporate cluelessness. That wasn't an isolated misstep. In 2013, Burger King was swept into Europe's horse meat scandal when DNA tests revealed traces of horse in its beef patties. The company blamed suppliers, but customers weren't reassured by executives, claiming the levels were very low. Once you admit there's any horse in a hamburger, the trust is gone. If horse meat wasn't enough, the chain was soon hit by one of the most notorious food service memes of all time: Burger King foot lettuce. An employee stood in bins of lettuce destined for sandwiches and proudly posted photos online. The images went viral, cementing themselves in internet infamy. The worker was fired, but the psychological damage was permanent. Millions of customers now associated Burger King salads with dirty sneakers. The deeper issue wasn't just rogue employees, but a culture of neglect. Customer surveys regularly rank Burger King near the bottom for fast food chains, with widespread complaints about cold food, rude staff, and restaurants that look neglected for decades. In 2024, the chain scored just 76 out of 100 in customer satisfaction. Health inspections have documented recurring cleanliness issues: sticky floors, broken equipment, and questionable food storage. For many diners, entering a Burger King feels like stepping into a time warp where hygiene rules are optional. These problems undermine the one real advantage Burger King still has: its flame-broiled burgers, which can actually taste good when prepared properly. But good food is meaningless if it's served in dirty conditions by unmotivated staff. Between tone-deaf marketing, horse meat scandals, and viral hygiene disasters, Burger King has managed to erode trust at nearly every level. Their slogan, "Have it your way," increasingly feels less like a promise and more like a warning. If your way includes disappointment, you're in luck. Number 5 brings us to Checkers and Rallies, the double drive-through chain that's mastered the art of serving disappointment at twice the speed. Known in different regions by different names, this chain has achieved a remarkable consistency in one area, consistently failing health inspections across the country. The horror stories from Checkers locations read like something out of a health inspector's worst nightmares. At one Florida location, inspectors discovered live cockroaches and flies literally swarming inside the burger toppings. Not near the food, not around the food, but actually inside the containers of onions, cheese, and mayonnaise that would go directly onto customer sandwiches. The restaurant had to be shut down immediately, but not before who knows how many customers received a protein boost they never ordered. Another location was caught preparing food in what can only be described as a makeshift outdoor kitchen, constructed from plywood and positioned next to the dumpsters. Employees were literally cooking chicken beside the garbage bins with no hand-washing stations in sight. It's hard to imagine a more unsanitary food preparation setup short of actually cooking inside the dumpster itself. The viral videos emerging from Checkers locations have become a genre unto themselves. The most infamous featured an employee wiping a hamburger bun on the floor before serving it to a customer, apparently believing that a little floor seasoning would enhance the flavor profile. While the company issued apologies and claimed the employee was terminated, the image of that contaminated bun became burned into the collective consciousness of anyone who'd ever eaten at the chain. Customer reviews of Checkers locations paint a picture of restaurants that seem to exist in a parallel universe where basic sanitation is optional. Diners report sticky counters covered in mysterious substances, floors littered with food debris and trash, and bathrooms that would make a gas station attendant blush. One particularly disgusted customer wrote that their local Checkers was so filthy that even the rats had given up and moved elsewhere. The chain's approach to cost-cutting seems to extend to basic maintenance and employee training. Many locations appear to operate with skeleton crews who lack proper training in food safety protocols. The result is a dining experience that feels more like participating in a biological experiment than enjoying a meal. What makes Checkers particularly problematic is their positioning as a budget-friendly option. While everyone understands that cheaper food often means lower quality ingredients or smaller portions, it shouldn't mean risking food poisoning or eating insects. There's a difference between cutting costs and cutting corners, and Checkers has sprinted past that line at double drive-through speed. The company's corporate response to these incidents has been consistently inadequate. Rather than implementing systematic changes to address widespread cleanliness issues, they've treated each violation as an isolated incident requiring only local corrective action. This approach has allowed problems to persist and spread across multiple locations. Sliding into our fourth position is Jimmy John's, the sandwich chain that promises freaky fast delivery, but delivers freaky dangerous food with alarming regularity. Their speed-focused business model apparently doesn't leave much time for basic food safety protocols. Jimmy John's earned the dubious distinction of receiving an official warning letter from the FDA in 2020, a regulatory action typically reserved for companies with serious and persistent food safety violations. The agency cited the chain for a pattern of serving contaminated ingredients that resulted in 5 separate disease outbreaks across 7 years, affecting customers in 17 different states. When federal regulators feel compelled to publicly shame your restaurant chain, you've achieved a special level of operational failure. The primary culprits in Jimmy John's outbreak saga were the fresh sprouts and cucumbers they insisted on adding to their sandwiches. These ingredients repeatedly tested positive for E. coli and salmonella, turning what should have been healthy additions into biological weapons. In one particularly severe outbreak in Iowa, 22 people were hospitalized after consuming contaminated sprouts from Jimmy John's sandwiches. What made these outbreaks particularly infuriating was the company's apparent indifference to the pattern. Even after multiple incidents sickened dozens of customers, corporate leadership seemed to shrug off the problem until federal regulators stepped in with serious threats. It takes a special kind of corporate arrogance to continue serving ingredients that have repeatedly poisoned your customers. Beyond food safety issues, Jimmy John's became embroiled in controversy when photos surfaced of founder Jimmy John Leo Todd posing with endangered animals he had killed during trophy hunting expeditions. Images of him straddling dead elephants and posing with slaughtered rhinos sparked nationwide outrage and boycott campaigns. For many customers, seeing the founder celebrate the killing of endangered species was the final straw in their relationship with the brand. The founder's trophy hunting hobby wasn't just morally reprehensible to many customers, it also revealed something disturbing about the corporate culture at Jimmy John's. This was a company that seemed to treat both animals and employees as expendable resources. Until 2018, the chain forced minimum wage workers to sign non-compete agreements that prevented them from working at competing sandwich shops if they quit. Imagine being so controlling that you won't let someone making $8 an hour work for your competitor after they leave. These non-compete clauses were particularly absurd given that we're talking about sandwich assembly, not nuclear physics. The agreements essentially trapped low-wage workers in jobs they couldn't afford to leave, creating a modern form of employment bondage that courts eventually struck down as unreasonable and unenforceable. Jimmy John's represents everything wrong with prioritizing speed over safety. Their freaky fast promise became a nightmare for customers who ended up in emergency rooms, while their corporate culture treated both food safety and worker rights as inconveniences to be minimized rather than responsibilities to be embraced. At number 3, we have Chipotle Mexican Grill, the chain that promised food with integrity but delivered food with bacteria instead. Once celebrated as the fresh, ethical alternative to greasy fast food, Chipotle became the poster child for how quickly a brand can collapse when food safety is ignored. It all began with the infamous 2015 E. coli outbreak that spread across 14 states, sickening 60 people and sparking nationwide panic about fast casual dining. That incident alone might have been survivable, but it was just the start of Chipotle's epidemic of outbreaks. Norovirus cases soon followed, hitting locations from Boston to California. In total, Chipotle was linked to more than 100 victims of foodborne illness, leading to a record $25 million federal fine, the largest ever against a restaurant chain. The stories behind those numbers were disturbing. At one Boston location, an employee vomited during a shift, but was ordered to stay on the food prep line, contaminating meals that poisoned 141 customers, including an entire college basketball team. The hypocrisy was staggering. A company built on the promise of food with integrity was literally forcing sick employees to handle food. That kind of management philosophy wasn't just negligent, it bordered on medieval. And then came the Dallas rodent incident, which took Chipotle's disasters to a whole new level. Customers were mid-burrito when rats started falling from the ceiling onto their tables. Not hiding in corners, but dropping onto diners like a biblical plague. Video footage showed rodents running along walls in broad daylight, while Chipotle brushed it off as mice sneaking in through a small gap. As if the size of the rodents mattered to the horrified customers. The falling rats became the perfect metaphor for Chipotle's failures, a chain charging premium prices for supposedly premium food, but unable to prevent vermin from raining down on paying guests. Customers weren't just paying extra for organic lettuce, they were paying for a side of nightmare fuel. What made it worse was Chipotle's holier-than-thou brand image. They sold themselves as the responsible alternative, using slogans about ethics and quality to justify higher prices. Yet they failed at the most basic task any restaurant faces, not poisoning customers. When even greasy burger joints manage better safety records, your credibility is gone. Chipotle has since poured millions into recovery, new safety protocols, stricter supply chain oversight, employee retraining. But the damage was done. For many, Chipotle's name will forever be shorthand for food poisoning. And no amount of slick marketing or premium sourcing claims can erase the memory of vomiting customers, sick employees forced to work, and rats falling from the ceiling. At number 2 sits Jack in the Box, the West Coast chain whose creepy clown mascot hides one of the darkest chapters in fast food history. Behind the plastic grin is a legacy of tragedy that permanently scarred America's approach to food safety. Jack in the Box doesn't just belong on this list, it practically invented it with the deadliest fast food disaster in U.S. history. In 1993, an E. coli outbreak linked to undercooked hamburgers killed 4 children and left 178 others with permanent injuries. Food safety experts still call it the most infamous food poisoning outbreak in contemporary history. The scale was staggering. 73 locations across 4 states served meat so undercooked it turned family meals into medical emergencies. Many victims suffered kidney failure and brain damage. For parents, a simple kid's meal became a life-or-death ordeal. No payout or apology could undo the trauma inflicted by negligence this severe. The disaster forced nationwide reforms in food safety regulations, changing how restaurants handled meat. In a sense, new laws were written in the blood of children, rules that should have been common sense from the beginning. Jack in the Box didn't just fail its customers, it failed so catastrophically that the entire industry had to adapt to prevent another tragedy. You might think such a scandal would drive the company to become a paragon of safety. But decades later, Jack in the Box still struggles with quality and reputation. In 2024, it scored just 72 out of 100 in customer satisfaction surveys, one of the lowest in the industry. Locations are often described as sketchy with inconsistent service and questionable food prep. The chain has also endured bizarre, smaller-scale scandals. One customer claimed to find a deep-fried wig in their fries. Viral videos have shown employees using drugs in the kitchen. Rodent infestations have been reported at multiple locations. Any one of these incidents would be a PR nightmare for most brands, but for Jack in the Box, they barely make a ripple. Proof of just how low expectations have fallen. What makes Jack in the Box particularly disturbing is its resilience. Most companies couldn't survive killing children through negligence, yet Jack in the Box did. Thanks to lawyers, insurance, and a customer base willing to gamble on cheap tacos and late-night burgers. It's less a fast food chain than a cautionary tale. A reminder that in America, even the worst failures don't necessarily mean the end of business. Number 1 takes us to Little Caesars, the pizza chain that proudly sells you an entire pie for less than the cost of a fancy coffee drink. Their slogan, hot and ready, should probably include a third word, disappointing, because that's exactly what customers get when they bite into what can charitably be called pizza. Little Caesars has mastered the art of setting rock-bottom expectations and then somehow failing to meet even those. Ever tried eating one of their pizzas? It's like chewing cardboard that's been smeared with ketchup and topped with what might be cheese if you're feeling optimistic. Customer satisfaction surveys consistently rank Little Caesars among the lowest of any pizza chain, scoring a dismal 75, which means even their own customers aren't particularly enthusiastic about the experience. The real comedy gold came when Little Caesars was caught in what appeared to be the most half-hearted attempt at food preparation in fast food history. A viral video showed a Little Caesars location with a shopping cart full of frozen DiGiorno pizzas sitting right in the store, as if they'd literally gone grocery shopping and decided to pass off supermarket frozen pizzas as their own product. The internet absolutely lost its collective mind over this revelation. "It's not delivery, it's Little Caesars" became the mocking slogan of the day, while DiGiorno's official Twitter account chimed in with, "We're just as curious as you." The incident perfectly encapsulated everything people suspected about Little Caesars: that their pizza is so indistinguishable from mass-produced frozen food that swapping them out seemed completely plausible. Little Caesars claimed it was all a big misunderstanding, insisting that the store was located inside a Kmart and some customer had simply abandoned their shopping cart near the counter. The excuse was almost more insulting than the original incident, asking customers to believe that the timing was purely coincidental and that their pizza doesn't actually resemble frozen grocery store food. The DiGiorno incident highlighted the fundamental problem with Little Caesars. They're not really trying to make good pizza, they're trying to make cheap pizza that technically qualifies as food. There's a difference between affordable and awful, but Little Caesars seems determined to explore just how far they can push that boundary. Beyond the quality issues, Little Caesars locations have earned reputations for questionable cleanliness and expired ingredients. Health department reports paint pictures of prep stations that haven't been properly cleaned and ingredients sitting past their expiration dates. The restaurants themselves feel like time capsules from the 1980s, complete with stained linoleum floors and flickering fluorescent lights that make everything look sickly and uninviting. Their marketing campaigns haven't evolved much since the Reagan administration either, featuring the same tired slogans and cartoon mascot that were already outdated when they first appeared. Walking into a Little Caesars feels like stepping into a parallel universe where pizza evolution stopped sometime around 1985. The chain has managed to become the third largest pizza company in America, which says more about American consumers' willingness to prioritize price over quality than it does about Little Caesars' culinary achievements. They've found their niche serving people who are either desperately broke or have completely given up on enjoying their food. If you find yourself truly desperate or financially strapped, Little Caesars will technically provide you with something that contains the basic components of pizza. Just don't expect it to be good, don't expect the experience to be pleasant, and definitely don't expect to feel good about yourself afterward. They've perfected the art of making customers regret their choices before they've even finished eating. So there you have it. 7 fast food chains that have turned grabbing a quick meal into a dangerous gamble where the prize is food poisoning and regret. From Subway's bread that's legally caked to Jack in the Box's deadly outbreak that rewrote food safety laws, these chains prove rock bottom has a basement, and they own it. What's shocking is how they've survived scandals that would destroy most businesses. Federal probes, lawsuits, viral videos of employees doing disgusting things. Yet somehow their neon signs still lure people back, a testament to either resilience or sheer desperation. So the next time you're tempted by dollar menus and drive-through convenience, think twice. Ask yourself if saving a few bucks is worth risking your health, because at these chains, you're not just ordering food, you're betting against your stomach in a game where the house almost always wins.